Hello everyone, I'm Hemant Kumar and you're watching Talking Movies with iDream. Our guest today is Mr. Pete Draper. He's one of the founders of Makkhi VFX and he's also the VFX Supervisor at this company. In the past 6 years, he's worked on films like Magadheera, Eega, Baahubali to name a few, and countless other Telugu and few other international projects as well. So let's see what he has to say about his work and career in general. Pete, thank you so much for joining us today. So first of all, congratulations. You've been a big part of Bahubali's VFX, and everybody has been talking about it. So how does it feel?
The response has been absolutely great. I mean, unfortunately, I didn't manage to catch it over here. Because of my visa expired, I had to travel back to the UK. But I managed to catch it the day before opening at the theatre in Leicester. One theatre called the Piccadilly in Leicester, and they had a house full there, which the guy who ran the place was saying that they never have housefulls for Telugu features there, unfortunately, but this one was an exception. So if that was houseful, I can be only amazed what happened here. So the response has been, absolutely astounding. We've had so many people come to us and congratulating us and saying the waterfall's been great and the city's been great and so on. So response has been pretty good. So I'm hoping to see what the response is going to be on the second one now.
You were one of the biggest vendors for this film. Like you worked on almost 50% of the
around 50 plus, about 60 plus maybe. So the exact number I think was around about 1,500 shots plus we worked on.
1,500 plus shots. So what was the breakdown like? Like what are the big segments that you worked on?
We were principally responsible for two main areas. One is Makkhi itself, in and around, and the other elements were, I'll break that down. One was the city overviews, the city fly-throughs and so on, plus the set extension work for when we were in the city centre. So all the temples and all the exterior shots. So we had a large physical set that obviously was constructed at RFC and designed and built by Sabu. Brilliant job in that. We liaised with him so that our set extension work and their design and our design collaborated and joined together. So that all flowed through neatly. Then there was, the wide city element, so following the same design, going into that liaised with the director and also with Sabu as well. There was also the interior works, so the King's Court, what we lovingly call it, where Sirivennela meets the traitors and we introduce the two babies at the same time. That sequence was also constructed by us. We worked with the production. They passed us the original production designs for those. We elaborated on that. Some of it had to be redesigned because of we did one version. The director went, looks a little bit small, so we increased it about 3 times. At the end of the day, this original size that we had that we shot on set originally was just going to be double. So no, and it went once or twice extra just to get the massive kind of grand scale to it. So we extrapolated a lot from the design work which was passed to us and built on that and enhanced it and so on and so on. Same deal with the city, obviously, as well, working closely with production designers that not necessarily within Makkhi itself, within production and also third-party studios. We all kind of collaborated very neatly with it. But also the main principal one, even though the city itself was a large element of the story, a large element of the work that was produced, just sheer number of shots, was the waterfall and surrounding environments. That principally was the most technically challenging. We've done set extension work, so many times in the past, so we know it backwards. We have a workflow for it, and it's very neat. We've even invested in laser scanning technology, so therefore it's refining the process even more so. So the accuracy's there. We're down to like 0.2 of a millimeter accuracy. So the tracking's perfect, everything's locked, it's all great. So that we have nailed. Then we have something which is what's called computational fluid dynamics. When you're getting things like the waterfall, you're having to enhance certain areas of live shoots. So those elements around the waterfall, rivers, the streams, splashes, and so on and so on, that was the most technically challenging, purely because of the fact that a lot of shots had to be custom built for that shot. Every single shot was built independently for that one singular shot, either through matte paint or through simulation work. Obviously, the composite is, every single comp that we do is custom built. We have a flow, especially for the set extension work, but for the waterfall and the climbing ones, every single thing is custom driven, purely because of composition. Purely because also of the amount of and the type of assets that need to be incorporated within that particular shot.
Like, can you give me an example for that?
Sure. Let's take the Tarzan episode, what we call the Tarzan episode, when he's swinging through the foliage. So there's one shot, for example, where he's swinging through. His feet are interacting with the ground, so his feet are interacting with the water, so they're scooting through. That's live element. But then we have additional CG elements, the entire environment, the foliage, the rays, the light is changing as we're progressing through the shots and so on. So that shot is staged and built for that one particular shot. How this log is sculpted across, what foliage is going on it, where the direction of the light rays are coming through, what the background's like, the fogging, any additional splashes and so on that we need to throw in. So that's custom driven for that one. Then we cut to the next shot where he swings up. That's a background that we've actually repurposed from the previous shot, I think. And then we go for the pole vault shot where he jumps over the branch. That again is staged. Each one of those branches and those ones is actually unique for that shot because of the size and the sculpture of the logs which are going into it and the foliage that's distributed on it. We can't use that one in the previous shot in that one because shape doesn't match. Same deal with a lot of the waterfall shots down the bottom. I think we managed to reuse a few simulations on a couple of shots just because angles were similar. So the shots where Sivagami's she's got the arrow, she's got the baby in the back, she's looking up. That shot and the one with the soldiers, which is a similar angle, that was repurposed. And I think there was also a shot that was later on in the sequence, later on in the feature, where Baahubali's adopted mother and father, they also look up, and so those, again, the similar angles, relit, reworked, that we managed to repurpose. But the majority of stuff, because every single angle was slightly different, the set was slightly different on the shot by shot, we had to redo simulations, we had to redo or rework matte paints for that particular shot itself. So there was a ton of work. If you imagine a song, how many shots there are in a song, if you imagine every single shot being a new set being built for every single shot, that's how it was. But it worked in the end. It's a lot of work, but it did come out right.
So when you say technical challenge, are you referring to the amount of time that you have to invest in creating that, or is it something else there?
It's principally down to the complexity. It's principally down to the complexity of trying to get the systems that we design to behave. to try and get them to, we need, the waterfall is like 1.5, 2 kilometers high. In one shot, in that one shot that we repurposed, we actually measured the height of the geometry to get that angle, to get that composition. The actual waterfall was 5 kilometers plus for that one particular one. So you don't see a 5 kilometer high waterfall, it doesn't exist. So, you're going above cloud layer, you're going almost like halfway to space almost. So actually having it look right is hard in itself, how to visualize this thing before you even get into simulating it. So as soon as you drop the large amount of water off from a top portion, after X number of meters, it's going to explode, it's going to burst. So therefore you're just going to have mist. The entire thing is just going to be mist, and it aesthetically won't look right. So we had to custom build systems to try and hold and control and manipulate the fluid to exaggerate properties to just get that aesthetic. It was cheating it a lot. Sometimes we went back to old school methods, sometimes we went to sprite-based, like game method techniques almost, from 10 years back, just to get that visual aesthetic. So we were taking sprite elements that we shot from trips to like Niagara Falls and to waterfalls that we visited up north. We're either taking stock and compositing those, those stock elements in, or we're using combination of simulations, or we're using old school volumes or old school sprite methods. So every single shot had a different sort of methodology that we'd actually utilize to get this large volume within there. The small streams where when when Tamana's enticing Baahubali to do the jump, behind her there's some additional water that's running down the edge. That's all pure simulation. That's all we had to do that without any shadow of a doubt, to actually, so it flows along the rock and everything. That comes out nice. And then the integration of the large volumes at behind, which a lot of it is stock that we've sourced and filmed ourselves, coupled with simulation work to also blend together neatly. Each one had to be tackled dependent on framing, composition, camera, lighting, everything. Because of scratching the head, right? How do we achieve this visual? Because we've got some great concept artists and map painters within the company. They're great. They also, every other department doesn't like them because they create this amazing visual that's really, it's like, wow, that's great. How are we going to do that? Because the director loves it. Oh God, how do we produce that? So we've been tempted just to say to him, like, tone it down, but then we go, no, actually, no, we're doing it, we're managing it, bring it up. So it's been tough, but, and it's down to the collaborative effort between all departments, really.
If given a choice, would you, see, I understand that VFX is, you're working very closely with the director's vision and the team and how they build the set, and then your work comes into play there. But if given a choice, would you just create everything by yourself in the studio, or do you still prefer it to be live action? And then
this is the thing. Filmmaking is a collaborative effort. Has to be. I mean, at the end of the day, we are producing a piece of art for a client. Just like art is always, unless you're doing something for yourself and you're in essence paying for it and you're doing it for yourself. Art's always a commission job. This is just another art form. It's still a commission job. So you're always working for a client. Case in point, and that client is the director and the producer. So their brief and their vision of how they want something to do, is integral to our creative process. So sometimes they won't know. They'll have an idea. This is the sort of thing that we're looking for. We're looking to create something, case in point, like a 1.5 kilometer high waterfall. All right, give us options. Let us know how you'd build it, how it would look, and so on. So we'd give lots of concepts. When we were down on the shoot down in Kerala, we had some of our map paint guys and our concept guys down there blasting out concepts. This is, okay, we shoot this angle. This is how it's going to extend up. This is what it's going to look like in the end. Yes, no, don't know. Okay, that angle's not working. So we'd bounce. We'd bounce between myself, Srini, our concept guy, and the director, to not only frame the shot for composition, but also to see whether or not certain elements were going to work, directly above the hero's head or to the side and so on. So it was, a very much a team effort. As going back to the original question of would prefer to just kind of build everything and go, there you go. Ask any artist that'd love to have complete free reign of something, but obviously that's never the case.
you work closely with Rajamouli, starting with Magadheera and then very extensively in Eega, and now again with Baahubali. Yeah. So what are the discussions like when you two catch up for a project? What do we talk about?
How many sleepless nights I'm going to get? Pretty much. Nah, it's normally okay. I mean, we've worked with him, like I say, for quite a few years now. So I like to think we are on the same page now. And a while back, after finishing this thing, we like to try and anticipate what he's going to go for, and every time he throws me a curveball, every single time. So I think we've got, okay, he's going to love this. We've busted our chops on this. This is going to look great. There you go. And he's like, yeah, can you kind of, damn. So it happens a lot. We try and anticipate it, and we get it right now. We get it right now compared to what it was previously. You know, especially with this guy. This guy went through so many design changes before we actually settled on that particular style. And you know, I fought him so many times on this, and also during Magadheera development. You know, there was crowd distribution and object distribution within the stadium we were working on. And as an effects artist, I think the first thing I think of is like, you know, okay, I'm building this one big asset that's got everything in place, so you can literally just shoot it from all these different angles, and the continuity is going to work, and you know, it's all going to gel together. It's going to be great. If you think of the filmmaking process, everything is constantly massaged. You know, it's massaged for composition. So people come up and say, oh, it's a movie mistake that property here moved from here from one shot and back to here on the next shot. Why is that? Yeah, okay, continuity error, maybe so, or maybe they've just gone from a separate angle and they've repositioned it for composition. And that's purely it. It's just purely for composition of the frame. So I'm building sequences, I'm building shots in Magadheera and also on these other films, and he's saying, right, you know, shift that there, move that there, move that there. Well, why? It's there in the previous shot. It's like, composition's not working. Fill the frame, make it look good. And I fought him for weeks, absolutely weeks on it. And right, fine, okay, fine, I'll do it. And I did it, and he was right. I was wrong. Totally admit that. Because, you know, he knew the process. I was concentrating purely on logistics, logical, you know, this, that, and the other, and making sure that, you know, the continuity was there. So now when we do it, we think, okay, right, let's frame the shot. Let's make sure that the framing's right. Okay, doesn't need to worry too much about, you know, okay, yes, we need to worry about composition, but not so it's going to kill us. As long as that large piece of detail is not intersecting with the heron's head, so you've not got a massive little branch going, looks like it's jamming out the top of her brain or something. So we framed things neatly for her. If we can't shift her, then we'll shift the prop, just like you would doing actually physically on set. If a prop's not working in that position, it gets moved, just as much as we do the same thing here. So every single one will get staged throughout the creative process to make sure that it is, you know, going right, and it's from working with him. You know, we've learned from working closely with him that this is the sort of thing he looks for, and we've also taken that, and you know, when we work with other clients as well, it's a learning experience. It's a creative, you know, it's a creative industry, so you're constantly developing. You learn new skills, you learn new techniques, not only through, you know, art and technical methods that we use within the studio, but also within the filmmaking process.
When you meet somebody, let's say a director, on a project, and how does it work? Like, do you first try to understand what he wants, or do people just say,
give me what you want? No. Always, again, because this is, like I said before, not only a collaborative effort, but also, like I say, throughout history, art has always been a paid gig. You're always working for somebody. So in essence, we've got to give the client what he wants, without any shadow of a doubt. That's the key thing. We've got to satisfy the client. The client is, like I say, 9 times out of 10, it's the director and the producer. That other, you know, 10% is, you know, obviously the audience. You know, we work to that director's vision. We work to that, or that producer's vision, depending on who's got the creative control. So we will always initially sit down with them and say, right, what is it you need? What is it you want? Break down the shots, break down the story, and then bounce creative ideas. Then we work towards that, but also give creative input within there, because that's, you know, part of the creative discussion process. If they don't have any idea, sometimes we just get briefs which are, we don't know. Give me something like that. That's kind of cool. Give me something like that. That's the sort of, you know, that's the homage to or inspiration therein. So give us something that looks like that and doesn't behave like that. But that's the sort of palette. That's the mood board that we're going for. Here's a selection of stuff that we like. Give us something that's like this, and we need to not only plan for it, but we need to shoot for it, and we need to do the post work for it. So the entire thing needs to work from the get-go, from the initial discussion. So we'll sit, we'll bounce, we'll design, we'll pass storyboards, we'll pass mood boards, we'll pass animatics. It's all a full creative process before we even go to shoot. And while on set, we'll do post-visualization and direct painting there on the spot as necessary. Case in point with Baahubali, when we were shooting the city centre, we had live real-time 3D updates, so the director could physically see the composition of the frame. Case in point, there's a shot where Rana's turned to King's Palace and he's gesturing towards it. He's against complete blue screen at the time. He doesn't know where the heck it is. So we give him an eye line, and B, we have on a separate monitor on the spot. We have another cabin out the back which we call the visual effects pit of fun. It was, which has got all the systems in there that we update to frame up the exact shot that it wants to be. So we then do a quick recording of it so that the artist can see exactly what he's looking at and what's in background. That also helps the cinematographer to frame the shot. And when we dealt with Magadheera, they actually placed like large balloons on set so the DP could actually physically, okay, we know a tower's going to be up there, so we framed for that. For this one we didn't. Purely because of two reasons. Number one, the amount of up-down structures we'd have in this thing was off the scale. And the second thing is some of them were so tall, getting a balloon up that high would be a danger to airplanes, quite possibly, because we're right near the airport. So therefore it wouldn't be physically possible. So we went down the virtual route. So we had on-set live 3D representation mixing with the live footage.
Is this the first time that something like that has been done in Telugu?
No.
In Telugu at least?
Possibly. I'm not familiar of it happening outside. If there is, then it has, but I was not aware of it. It's quite a common practice to do overseas. I mean, there's technologies out there now. We did like a bit of a Heath Robinson patch together. We'd love to have complete real-time updates, tilt the camera, it moves up and so on, but a lot of it we were doing manual, we're measuring up by hand and then plugging the information into our laser scan. That was a total digital representation of the set, and then angling the camera, tweaking it, making sure that the composition is right, and then mixing it through to just cross-check, and yep, that's fine. We did it on a few sets actually. We didn't just do it on the city centre, but we also did it on the King's Courts areas. That was principally for a couple of reasons. One, because we were limited by the physical size of the set itself. We only had it was about 190 meters that way. In the court, in the actual physical set. And there were some shots that we needed to bang the camera right back, extended 2-3 times through the wall, and get that very wide angle from backside through pillars and the profile angle, or come into where the statues are and have them in suggestion. So getting a physical camera up there, it's impossible to do because you're going to have to knock a hole through the studio wall, and Mr. Ramoji doesn't really like us doing that. So we had to digitally extend back, so therefore we had to work out the correct framing, the correct angle, composition, take our digital direct camera there, bang it forward. Okay, that's our XYZ location of where this needs to be. And then we've got the issues of perspective distortion because the lensing is going to change, so we have to adjust the lensing for that and shoot how many plates we needed to offset. So all that we calculated on set on the spot when the director's like, oh, it'd be nice to get a camera up there. I had to push that back and calculate it there on the spot and then rush and give the notes right up there, shoot on that, this lens and so on. And it worked. Yeah. Bit of mental calculation, but yeah, it worked.
I've interacted with quite a few cinematographers, and they always talk about getting that lighting right for the Indian skin tone, you know, to highlight the features or anything. But as a visual effects supervisor, do you also take that a lot into consideration?
Yeah, it's digital doubles, as one would call it, or digital makeup or facial replicas or whatever you want to call it. So it's lighting is one thing. So it's obviously when one tends to block a shot, let's say someone blocks a shot with in a live shoot, they wouldn't necessarily use the principal talent, they'd use a stand-in. So the DP would light for the stand-in, then they bring the stand-in out, and then they get the principal talent in and shoot the scene and so on. Similar thing works for us, so we get a stand-in and shoot reference, and then on live we'd actually shoot lighting references to make sure the physical lights that you've got, say for example in here, would be physically measured and calculated so that whatever we replicate back in the studio is matching exactly what we've got here. With regarding matching skin and skin tone and so on, that's depends on a couple of factors. It's kind of tough because which one when you reference any kind of image or anything like that, or any individual, you're actually shooting them from the real world. When you're dealing with them in film, they're always wearing makeup. So matching someone who's actually been alive and since passed away, getting a live reference is obviously very tough. So any singular reference that they have. So whenever you're doing any kind of digital makeup work, you have to mimic the fact that makeup is being applied to the actor already, so everybody's familiar with seeing him or her with makeup on already. So you have to not only build the skin texture and build the skin tone, but you also have to add digital makeup on them to make it look real as such, which is kind of tough to do. So all the little small nuances and small irregularities in someone, little twitches, little tweaks, little kind of pop marks on the face, and if they've got a scar, I've got one here, kind of thing, adding those sorts of things where the moles are, and that kind of, it's the irregularities. If it's too perfect, then something doesn't seem right. And the thing is, especially with recognizable talent, the audience by default is an expert at CG. It's the same deal with like working with fluid work. It's like the waterfall stuff and the fire pits that we did within the night shots, and also within what we lovingly call the oven scene.
What is that scene?
The oven scene is it was a cutaway, two or three shots that was in the Sivagami's entrance within King's Court. So literally, she's walking down slow motion, marching with the babies and everything. And in the live set, they placed these fire pits and so on. And they placed them so close together because that was nice for that composition of that. And it was a totally green screen shot. Apart from the floor on this fire pits, it was a totally green screen shot. So to keep the continuity in the placement, we measured up the same places of these fire pits and we extended it back. So we built digital versions of these, did fire simulations for all these things, had torches hanging from the walls and so on, and built this corridor accordingly and staged it down based on references that we took from the live show and also from our own custom work. Staged it up, built it, put it in, rendered it, okie dokie. Then it looked like she was standing inside an oven because the amount of fire pits travelling down there was so many. So all these fires just blended together. So my good God. I mean, I stood next to these fire pits when they were on. I mean, they were hot. So she would have melted. So hence the oven shot. It looks like she's gone inside a kiln. It's like that sari would combust. So thankfully that didn't happen. Otherwise we'd be struck for a second part. So we designed the fire so it went up, down, up, down, up, down. So you didn't have just like a constant line and then offset, you know, okay, the guy who staged it right wasn't perfect. So yeah, it wasn't perfectly straight. We created these irregularities just to kind of break up the shape and what have you. Same deal with the pillars and that kind of thing. So creating that fire, okay, we have reference of the live, so therefore we know the size, the scale, the speed, you know, the strength, how much fuel is in there. So all that simulation we can do. Simulating things like fire nowadays is a lot easier than what it used to be back in the day. It used to be really, really tough.
I was going to ask you that fire versus water, what's very difficult?
Fluids is more tough. Fluids is more tough. I mean, fire itself technically is a fluid. You know, it's a plasma, so therefore it is technically a fluid. And the smoke simulations that you have, technically that is fluid simulation as well, because you've got the fire element, which has got, so you've got the smoke element, which has got a viscosity within it, and that's interacting with air, so that's displacing it around just as much as water would displace around any other medium. This is a similar kind of technology. But the thing is, convincing people, fire is easier to convince somebody than water. Previously, they both were pretty tough to convince. Doing digital fire was kind of hard, especially explosions, getting that right. Nowadays, it's easier than what it used to be. I say easier, it's a case of we've got better systems to throw more data out, or more, you know, the systems, the simulations themselves can be more complex. So therefore, it's giving a better result in the end. Fluid simulations, again, we can throw more data at it now. You know, the simulations for there's one shot for when Sirivennela is drowning in the river, she's being swept away and you see the water falling back. That entire river was digitally replaced because originally it was alive. We shot it down in Kerala and the water wasn't fast enough. It didn't look dangerous enough. She was, you know, swimming away and everything, and she had this prop baby with her, and it was risky. You know, we had, you know, lots of crew on standby, ropes, guide ropes, and everything holding her back so she was safe. But the water itself did not aesthetically look meaty enough, so that entire water was replaced. That took days to simulate. Days and days to simulate and days to render to get that fine detail. So you've got a simulation for the underlying water, you've got a simulation for the top water, you've got a simulation for the foam, you've got a simulation for the splashes. All of these need to gel in right. And the problem is, everybody is an expert. Whether you know it or not, every single one who watches any CG fluid work is an expert in computational fluid dynamics. Because everybody knows what it's supposed to look like. And if they don't know it, they don't realize it, but they know when something's wrong. The same deal with looking at a digital face. You're an expert at CG because you know what a face looks like. And you know what fire's supposed to look like. It's how things like miniature work struggles with things that are very, very tough to change the size of. Like if you're shooting, let's say you're shooting a galleon ship on the sea, you know, it's firing its cannons out the side. The galleon itself, you can shoot with, you know, scale factors. You know, it's like a 1/10 scale model or something like that. So all the texture work on the side, the paint work on the side is all 1/10 scale. All the cannons on the side, the little people on the top, the models are 1/10 scale, and it's lit at a power of 10, and it's shot with a 10 scale lens, and it's shot with a 10 scale shutter speed and shutter angle and so on, all this lot. So it's proportionate. But you can't scale fire. You can't scale water down. So that's the reason why miniature work looks weird when you start introducing things like real world elements of things you can't scale, like water and fire and smoke. So immediately the audience goes, something's not right. Something's not right in that shot, because they're used to seeing that scale in proportion to something that's X big. And if something looks off, then the entire shot, something's not right here. And it's the same deal with CG. If something doesn't appear to be exactly right, then the attention goes onto that, and you've lost them. So we struggle, we try, and you know, the amount of revisions that we went through for even like the smallest little trickle of water got so many revisions on it because either we weren't happy or the director wasn't happy. So we polished and polished and polished to get it right. Some we managed, some we didn't. You know, put hands up to it. We tried our hardest with it, and you know, for the most part, it all worked. There were some which, like, we tried our best with it, and because the structure was so off, it just wasn't coming. So therefore, we cheated in composition. We either sourced stock to replace that element, or we placed like a branch, you know, and framed the shot accordingly, so it looked like it was intentional in the composition, but not. It's actually hiding something. Yeah. But there's some shots that we couldn't simply get away with. You know, there's some shots which were, you know, we knew were going to be tough. We knew they were going to be there, and there was no physical way we could get away with, you know, any 2D techniques to salvage it. There's one shot which we lovingly call the Angel Falls shot, which is the introduction to when Pravas has finally made it to the top of the waterfall. There's one that kind of goes over the top, camera comes around, you see the wedge, the top ledge is basically revealing the top, so you start across there, you come round, and then you come to here. So that waterfall shot there, the entire thing was digital. It had to be, purely because there was no 2D footage that we could work with that had that, because it got so much perspective change and dynamicism in the shot. There's no way it had to be totally digital. So all the rocks was modelled and matte painted. All the water was fluid sims. The splash layer itself was about 30, 40 different layers of simulations, from the underlying drops to the splashes on the top to the interacting with the rocks, for breaking around the side of the rock itself. So, and that was one of the last few shots that we finalised on. And then Pavan, one of our comp artists, put it all together, and it was created the massive drop down there, and utilised some photography that I'd shot from a plane for the ground elements and whatever. So that was one of the few that we definitely had to, you know, work with simulation work on it. Same deal with some shots of the waterfall jump and the Tarzan episodes. Again, no way could anything be filmed in that respect, so therefore it had to be totally 100% digital. Same deal with, like, obviously, you know, the wide city shots. There were some shots which we amalgamated and enhanced from drone cam shots that we did on set, but then the director went, okay, I want the camera back here. Let's replace the entire shot digitally. So it's like, okay, fair enough. So sometimes things take you through a curve. Sometimes we can, you know, you use the tools that you have available and the experience that you have, and brainstorming the hell out of it with everybody in the studio. So right, this, you know, even if he comes up with something, the client comes up with something totally crazy. Why? Not to the point of why, it's how. How can we achieve this? And it's not a case of, no, sorry, we can't do it. It's a case of, this is going to be tough. It's going to look cool. How can we do it? I mean, that Angel Falls one, like I say, we struggled on that for a very, very long time. Very, very long time. Months and months and months and months. Yeah, so many R&D tests, different ways of doing it. I sat on it. My stuff went off. You know, my stuff didn't work. A bunch of the other Houdini guys sat and blasted that out. And again, so many layers went into this thing. And, you know, say some of our senior comp guys put that together, and, you know, so many people put their, not necessarily 2p's worth in, but contributed to the development of it, and it came through in the end. There were some other shots in that entire sequence where we tried the same methodology, didn't work, simply didn't work. So, what the heck are we doing? Okay, right. So thankfully we managed to source layers and footage, and again went back to old school methods to, you know, cut elements and stage those together, and even managed to pull this dynamic camera move out from the side, pulling out when he's swinging from the top, you know. and that worked. So sometimes, you know, the simplest ways and the old school ways are the best. You don't necessarily need to go down this, you know, huge complex route if not necessary. But sometimes in some shots, you definitely have to.
Now, everybody has seen Baahubali, and the VFX has been raved about it a lot. So, what's coming up next in Baahubali 2? Are you going to push the bar even further, or?
Yeah, he's keeping his cards pretty close to his chest.
He hasn't told you anything yet?
I know of some. Obviously, I mean, with any shoot, you know, there's some elements in are shot parallelly. There's some elements are shot parallelly. So therefore, depending on the set or the shooting location and so on, some scenes or some environments, will be reused or shot at the same time. So I obviously was present for a chunk of those. Those scenes we already have, and some we've already worked. And one I think is, you know, X percentage across, another scene is another Y percentage across, and so on. So there are, you know, elements to it which we are familiar with. As for the whole story, he's keeping it pretty close. He's keeping it pretty close. I know what's happening in the climax. I'm not telling you. There's not enough money or death wish on the planet I could hope for. And do I know why Katapa killed Baahubali? Yeah.
You know?
Of course I know.
Good luck with that.
I'm not telling you. Well, you can work it out. I'm sorry. No, I'm joking. It's because he borrowed $20 and didn't pay him back.
Right. So I'm sure the next 1 year at least you're going to be quite busy with Baahubali 2. But
yeah.
Beyond that, what's coming up for Makkhi VFX?
Certain things I can say, certain things I can't say. We're doing a lot of development into mobile tech. One which is supporting VFX production. One thing that we have been working on, which has assisted us within this particular film, it's been an in-house tool which we've developed over the last few years, and that's a labeling for on-set data collation. So previously what we tend to do is we go through and log every single thing down, old-fashioned route on paper, you know, analog logging. And when you've got so many shots to deal with, you have to scan everything in, you have to collate all the data and all the different sources that you found. So we've built our own system and our own in-house database and in-house app within mobile devices to collate all that information together. So that we're looking to release in around about a month. So that's something we've been looking to do and working, utilising this production and other productions to, you know, dry run it, test it. We've done it live on set. We've, you know, okay, yes, this version didn't work, this one works, this bit didn't work, and literally trying to break the thing so that if as or when we did release it to public, we knew it was, you know, it was perfect, it was a good job. We're seriously getting into other areas of media production. Not much I can say about that at the moment, but if you read between the lines, you should be able to extrapolate what that means. We are expanding quite considerably for this next film, without any shadow of a doubt. I know the scope for this next one, you know, fair amount of it, and it's big. It's really big, really big. And we're also looking to, without any shadow of a doubt, push the envelope as far as the, you know, quality of the work. With any work that we do, or any art piece that any artist will do, they'll always like, oh God, I wish I had more time. I wish I'd, you know, had another month or two on that, or another week, or another day. You know, just to do that one thing. So you're always very kind of self-critical of your own work, not necessarily of other people's, but mostly, especially of your own work. And the VFX industry is very, very, you know, open for that. You know, you'll get people who will actively get in touch with you. It's like, yeah, that shot was good, or that shot sucked. Just as much as you'll say to yourself, I really, really wish I'd had more time on that, or I wish that wish we'd done a little bit more on this thing, kind of thing. So when you see any shot, any shot that you've done, you always think that it's either one or the other. It's either that was perfect, or yeah, or damn, the colorist screwed it. So they should blame somebody else for it. So I did a good job on that. What the hell happened? Why did he crush the blacks down, or or burn the whites out, or the midtones are off, or it's like, oh my good God. So yeah, we always try and push the envelope, and that's definitely what we're aiming to do for this second one, without any shadow of doubt. It's the few scenes that we already have on the plate that we've already been working on, they are visually, yeah.
You've been working in India for the past, 6 years now, yeah. 2009. So how did that happen? Like from UK, you...
Long story short version, I'm really bad at that. Originally I did a sequence for Hindi Ghajini. That was the opening title sequence where it flies through the brain at the beginning. So I did that in the UK. My old business partner, Kamal Khan, just plucked me out of the blue. Just somehow managed to find me. I don't know how. I think it was because I had a medical animation on my show reel at the time when I was a freelancer, and he was working on that particular show. So he got in touch with me and asked me to do this one particular sequence. So I busted my chops for about a couple of weeks or so and sent it across, and collapsed, and got up the following day and saw the mail. It's like, yeah, it's not what we wanted. Like, what? Oh no. Okay. So I spoke to him for some time. It's like it wasn't the kind of thing. So I was like, okay, fine. Redo it. So I redid the thing, and that's the one that was used. So originally it was like one large environment. We were just swimming around it, a few neurons exploding, that kind of thing. It was all just within this brain environment, and he was right. It was laboured. It wasn't fast paced enough. So no, it was totally right on that. So we broke it down into individual sequences, so one flying through the neurons, then flying through the wires, and then flying through these cells, and all the way out to the brain itself at the end. So at the end of that, after I delivered that thing, we just casually had a discussion over Skype, and he said, "Oh, we've got this. I'm working on this one film at the moment, which is." Turns out it was Magadheera. He said, "Well, I've got this one stadium episode, which is coming up. All right, historical piece, okay. I'm a little bit concerned about one studio, it's a big job for them to do. They're currently doing it using this particular process. This is the workflow that they do it, and that's not right. So what you need to do is you do this," and literally just give him like 2 pages of stuff to say, right, just pass to them, it'll come fine, don't worry about it. Day later, I get a mail back or a message back on Skype saying, "Yeah, can you come across?" I'm like, yeah. No, serious. Huh? Okay. So I arranged to travel across on, I think it was Valentine's Day 2009, single at the time, and thought, get away from all this love heart rubbish in the UK and get to Hyderabad airport, and it's just like love hearts all over the place. Like, okay, fine. Straight to RFC, had a nervous breakdown because I was completely on the other side of the planet, like complete fish out of water, really didn't like it when I first arrived. Just felt totally isolated from family, not because of the country or anything, but because I was just totally isolated. I'm on the other side of the world, my God, what the heck am I doing? Seriously, what the heck am I doing? But got into the work. Met the director, struck a good rapport with him, met with Kamal, struck a very good rapport with him as well, so much so that we formed the studio, myself, Adil, who built the stadium within Magadheera, and the three of us struck a rapport, so Kamal suggested that we form the studio, sometime later, and it was great. So finally I delivered the section that I needed to work on, which was supervising the rendering and the lighting setup for the stadium in the city. So QC'd a bunch of stuff down at Prasad VFX and with one or two other studios as well, working with Kamal. So much to the point we were setting up a render farm in the hotel room at Green Park in Chennai with like 9-10 machines just blasting out. I'm sure their electricity bill must have gone up. Did that and then came back to the UK. I thought, that's it, I'm done. I'm not coming back or anything like that. And 2 months later, I got a call to come back. So it was like on a Friday. I do remember it vividly. Me and one guy who works for us now, Badger, we'd had a couple of drinks on a Thursday night and hung over a Friday, sat at, I think, KFC or something in Middlesbrough in England. And Kamal phoned up, oh, hello, how are you doing? And he's, we're having a chin wag. He's like, so, yeah, can you come back? I'm like, yeah, right. He's like, no, seriously. I'm like, well, I'll check my calendar, nothing on at the moment. Okay, fine, so when do you need me back? He went, Monday. How on earth am I supposed to get back in 2 days? No, mate, no, I've got to change the visa, I've got to do this, not gonna, oh, you still got the work visa from last time, you can still come back on that, re-register when you get here, and all this kind of thing. No, Monday's not possible. Sorry, I've got to say goodbye to family and stuff. You know how much problems I had last time and so on and so on. I was back by Wednesday. So I literally jumped on a plane on the Tuesday. So the Monday wasn't possible, but the Wednesday was.
But
yeah.
What brought you back? Like,
it was the same. It was the same job. It was second stab at Magadheera, and the director had added some additional bits and bobs. Some shots that was originally not going to have any VFX, he decided to add some additional stuff in. There were some crowd elements that needed to go in. There was some birds, pigeons flocking and flying away and all this kind of other stuff. There was some cape shots in the Deera song. The vortex when Ram Charan throws this thing down and goes up like that thing. And some digital cloth that needed to go in. So there was around about 4 or 5 weeks or something like that I was here. I did not see the light of day apart from popping out for a coffee. That was basically it. So I spent every single day working at Prasad Labs in what we lovingly called the Room of Death, which was literally this kind of confined space about yay big with 9 of us in there. It was like originally there was just me, then there was another guy, and then gradually there was around about 8 or 9 of us in there, all kind of like this, trying to blast these shots out. And again, managed it in the end. But unfortunately, I had to leave the country before the film got released because my visa had finished and everything, and I had to return back. So I didn't see the film until a year later, when myself and Adil saw it in Prasad's screening room. So that was kind of interesting. That was okay. We're sitting forward, saying, "Oh, this is our stuff now." Okay, and grades off. Oh, yeah, that's okay. That came okay. Yeah. So that was kind of like how it was. And then to say after the Magadheera job, we decided to form the studio. So totally Kamal's idea. We decided, okay, fine, let's give it a go. Originally, we were going to come in as just going to various different studios as consultants. That was the plan. We never were going to, set up a large studio kind of thing. That was never the initial idea. After first meeting there and meeting with our supportive investors, we decided, okay, let's go for this. Let's hire talent. We'll retain the key talent that we want to be able to develop a studio that excels in quality. That's the one main thing that we always try in the street for. The name is bigger than any one of us. We don't want to work on stuff that is going to lower our profile, and we've managed to do that so far. We've managed to constantly raise our game through the support of those guys. It's been brilliant. Developing and assisting the talent that we have, seeing where each artist's pearls and pitfalls are, and guiding them to push into various different areas to try and challenge them and to try and up their game and constantly try and get them to think outside the box a lot and to try and target key talent outside the company to bring them into the fold, to assist themselves and to help them develop and to help the other guys develop as well. So that's what we try and do. We try and retain everybody as best we can, We always look for people who have that enthusiasm to develop, to expand. Yeah.
The company has grown a lot in the past 5 years from what I've understood, right, from Magadheera days to where it is right now.
Yeah.
You know, so and you must have interacted with a lot with these newcomers or people who are already working in a lot of visual effects studios.
Yeah.
So what is the sense that you get when you interact with these people in the industry? Like, are they up there to do the graphics, visual effects to the level which you expect, or are they still in the stepping stone?
You get some who are, very, very good. They excel. I mean, some of the guys we have, I definitely couldn't do what they do without any shadow of a doubt. I'm basically a generalist. I don't specialize in one specific area. Maybe lighting and effects, kind of, but there's some guys in these areas which are just, way step above me. There are, individuals in other studios which I know here are brilliant. I'd take them in a heartbeat if they just leave. But the main issue that we find trying to source new talent here is the fact that trying to cherry pick and find those key individuals is hard. It really is hard. And it's down to, dare I say it, the way that they are taught. That's the key problem. There's some institutions here which do a very good job, some lecturers do a very good job, but there are some which don't. And I don't mind saying it, and a lot of them I've discussed with them personally, and some of them know my feelings directly of this, and my feelings of this are, they have to have that creative bone to start with. If you're not interested in the art, if you don't treat this as an art, if you just treat it like another job, do something else, man. Seriously, you don't want to be, busting your chops on shots at God knows late at night because the director's decided for an nth iteration and the deadline's tomorrow, and you need to get this thing done. If you don't enjoy it, if you don't love what you do, you're busting your backside for that 3 seconds, 4 second shot that you've maybe worked on it for 6 months or something like that, and it's on screen and now it's gone. Can we just put this on a loop for an hour? And it's like that. You're like, all that time, all that effort for those 4 seconds, and it's totally gone now. My God. Now, if you don't, as an artist, love those 4 seconds, if you don't really, really, feel it here, and you're just like, then I say do something else. Get into computing, do programming, do iPad development, something, whatever it may be, whatever excites you, do that. If this excites you, do it. And that's the key problem. A lot of people who go into VFX here, and it's also other places worldwide as well. It's not just here. Is the fact that they see it as a job. It's not a job. It's a hobby that pays. It's an art form. Filmmaking is an art form. You've got to treat it like that. Otherwise, you will go crazy. Simple as that. We all are. We're all a bit nuts. So you've really got to love this stuff. If you don't, then you're going to go nuts, and you're not going to develop. As any artist will tell you, and I mean true artist. Guys who work here, I class every single one of them as an artist, no matter whether or not they're in technical development or whether or not they're in matte painting, lighting or compositing. They're all artists because they treat it like an art form. They strive not only to give the best that they can, but also to push themselves above and beyond and to develop themselves further. And that's the key thing, being able to understand and develop and learn new techniques. I mean, like I say, you don't look at a bowl of fruit and go, yeah, I kind of got it, and then go for it. Or Leonardo da Vinci didn't kind of work out, okay, this is the palette, this is the brush, this is the paint, that's the canvas, okay, Mona Lisa. You practiced. Yeah. And it's the same deal with VFX. It's an art form. So therefore you have to treat it the same. You can't develop as an artist either technically, creatively, or through the ranks, if that's your objective, moving your way through the ranks and salary and so on, you gotta get good. And by being creative and enjoying yourself in the process is the way to succeed. It's the way to develop. It's the way to move ahead and move forward in these things.
You grew up in the UK and now you're working in Indian cinema.
Yeah.
So do you feel the necessity to understand the kind of films being made here, or when it comes to your work it doesn't make a difference because you're...
Yeah, even some of the films that I've worked on here, we go and see them and like, huh? I don't get it. That's a little bit OTT, but I do understand it now. I mean, initially I was, what? Why is he saying that and doing that and that dialogue and this kind of thing, and why is he slapping him? Why is he sort of like, slapped him right in the face? He's your friend. Why are you slapping him? If you do that in England, some other guy's going to slap you back like really flipping hard. So nowadays it's like, oh right, it's camaraderie, it's banter, it's that kind of thing. So I kind of get it. I kind of get it now. But initially I was, whoa.
You're just talking about that you really didn't understand the films in the beginning and now you've gotten used to that. But when it comes to your work, how does it work? Because you're breaking down everything into images and programming and all.
The process itself is pretty standard for over here compared to, it's pretty much the same over here as what we would do for someone over in the West nowadays. It's pretty much come into its own now in the last, I think, maybe 3 years or so. Prior to that, there was not many people or not many directors or producers who would understand the effects process. But I mean, even now, still, there are some old school directors and producers and guys who've been around for quite a while, who are familiar with, who are been in the game for quite some time, who are used to, I won't call it the old way of working, I'd call it the tried and tested, formulaic way of doing it. Shoot the thing, cut for about a couple of months, get the thing out, assembly line sort of stuff. Unfortunately, post-production nowadays doesn't work like that. For the quality and for the aesthetics to be there, time is required. So therefore, the post-production facility needs to have adequate time to do the art. So time and quality needs to be there. So therefore, a lot of people don't tend to see that. So when we meet a new director or meet a new producer, we always advise, schedule the key technically problematic scenes as early as physically possible. So therefore, one studio has as much time as physically possible after the end of the shoot. Before the release, so we can actually work on it for as long as we can, based on time, quality, and also the money that's available. So what we always try and do is sit and advise, storyboard, block down, and so there's no wastage. There's no wastage within the shoot, there's no wastage in post either. And it also helps everybody visualize what they're going to get at the end. We'll send storyboards, animatics, advise on set, we'll suggest for framing, supervisors on set will obviously comment and advise with the client, with the director on set itself, and also guide them through the creative process. That's how it's done over here. That's how it's done in overseas as well. It's part of the method, and gradually everybody's starting to filter into that way of thinking, which is good, because it saves time, it saves money. It allows the artist to work on the element, whatever it may be, for as long as physically possible, within the schedule, within the budget, to the client's satisfaction. Yeah.
Alright, Pete, thank you so much for joining us. It was really nice talking to you.
Yeah, thanks, mate.
Wish you all the best for your career. So that was Pete Draper talking to us about a lot about VFX in Baahubali and several other films. We hope you enjoyed the conversation. We'll see you again soon. Thank you and have a nice day.